Trump trolled Canada and flipped us on our maple arses.
Did he ever?
What's out of control?
Where's it out of control?
Who's out of control?
And why is it out of control, Kent?
Well, Rusty, you know what's out of control these days? Trump trolled the shit out of Canada.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he sure. He hasn't even taken office, and he's already stirring the pot. And hey, good for him. I think it was really warranted to do so. You know, look here, we've got a foreign leader. You know, I guess he's our neighbor, but he is still a foreign leader, and he's doing more for our border than our current leader's doing.
I hear you. He sent out this one social media post on Truth Social, and he was basically talking about our border, fentanyl, and those kind of issues. And it completely flipped Canada. People all over the internet, government scrambling. Trudeau even flew down to Florida to have a meeting. I don't know if he was asked to or if it was his idea, but because Trump had threatened 25% tariffs on anything going into America.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's devastating.
Well, it's devastating because most of our products go down there. They are our major trading partner.
I think 40%, 50% of our trade. Yeah.
Absolutely, and we're reliant on that, and that's huge. That's another kick in the pants for Canada to a economy that's been crippled ever since COVID-19 and struggling to, regain what it once was. And now we got this, which in some ways, I think it is a good thing. We really do need to get a handle on our borders on both ends. Maybe that will help us out and stop getting so many illegals in,
and drugs and firearms.
Right. And firearms and like
all the things that are ailing Canada, a good portion of them are coming across that border.
Absolutely. And it's crazy. It's like it's an open border, and it's one of the biggest unprotected borders in the world. And there's a lot of holes they can go through. Like you look at Montana, there's 300 miles there of open border, which basically is a little signs and maybe a barbed wire fence. So to have people cross that it's not a problem. So what is coming across on both sides and for them as well, what kind of riffraff is going south? And let's just face it, we live in a day where you just can't trust everybody.
Well, I've seen the data, I'm sure you have too, that like a lot of the liberals, it seems like they took the approach like, don't listen to Trump and you're a traitor if you agree with him, when he's pointing out an obvious problem that we all know exists: our porous border, drugs,
that's right,
weapons, criminals, terrorists. I mean, these people are going to exist regardless, but we don't have to make it easy for them.
In Canada here, I think what we do is we take for granted is, I don't know, maybe not so much take for granted, but we like to think everybody is on the level. You know what I mean?
Good, honest, good-hearted.
Right. There
couldn't be any bad
There
intentions.
could be no bad people. All those people are coming here with great intentions. They want to be Canadian, and they want to live the Canadian lifestyle. And this ignorance is dangerous. It is dangerous.
Well, and it's also not only that, it's embarrassing because it took a foreign leader to put the spotlight on a major Canadian problem, and it put a fire under our government's asses to actually want to do something about protecting our country. And I, of course, don't want to see 25% tariffs. I mean, I also understand that raises prices for Americans. So I'm fairly certain, like, unless we did absolutely nothing, I don't see those tariffs coming in at that high because it's going to harm the Americans too. I see this as Trump kind of beating his chest and being Trump, being bombastic, saying outlandish things to get a reaction. And boy, did he ever. And now things are going to improve in Canada because of a guy that they tell us is evil and horrible. And then he had a second post after that Mar-a-Lago meeting, um, where it was an AI image. We'll put it up of Trump staring at like mountains in Switzerland with a big Canadian flag. Everyone was
Yeah.
giving him a hard time that it was Switzerland, but it's
Yeah.
AI.
That's right. It's
Like,
AI.
you know what I mean? But anyway, the idea is he's trolling.
He's trolling.
He's
And,
trolling Canada hard, and it's effective.
well, rightfully so. He needs to.
Two social media posts
Yeah.
have flipped Canada on its arse.
That's right. Yeah, and it has. And hopefully for the better, Ken.
Scrambling.
Totally scrambling. The talk was. And then, now what's this 51st state, Ken?
Well, I'm not like at first, of course, everyone's joking, right? And,
Sure.
And the Americans are calling us snow Mexicans. I think that's fucking hilarious.
That is hilarious.
They're like, we're coming to save you, snow Mexicans. And it's just funny. Everyone just, because it's emotional, it's like everyone's charged up, whatever side you're on. You're either calling people traitors or you're like, please, America, come take us. And it's like, no, man. In my opinion, we're Canada. Generations of our families have fought and died and sweat and worked hard for Canada. It's in a bad state right now. But I can't just, spit on my grandfather's graves and the generations of all of our families who've gone across oceans to fight for other people's freedoms and ours. And I can't just go, please, America, come in here because I hate the government. The government's not there forever. It's going to be a lot of shit we have to deal with, a lot of problems we have to solve. It's going to take a while because these people fucked up, and it's going to be a lot of hard work, and it's going to suck sometimes. But I don't want to be America. I love you, Americans, your brothers, sisters. We're very similar, but yet different. In my opinion, we should remain Canada, and because too much has been sacrificed not to.
Yeah, no, I agree, Kent. And
It's fun to joke about.
That it is, and it would come with its perks, right? But with the right leadership, we can turn this country back around and put it back on the map in a good light. And I really think that's the course we should take instead of the easy way out and just, I guess, being assimilated by the American machine, because I'm not too crazy about that. Granted, we would have better military. We would all of a sudden our debt would but now all of a sudden we would have the $30 trillion debt. Yeah, I don't know about that. And let's just face it, North America's having issues.
Well, there's pros and
there's
cons.
Pros and cons about everything. But I really don't want to lose our Canadian identity, because you know what? That's what makes us unique in the world. And we are a very unique country. And, some like to say we're the melting pot. And I would just like to say we're just a country where everybody can fit in and everybody can come to. And
if you want to.
And because truly, what is a Canadian?
Well,
what defines us as Canadians? And that's something we're being asked every day. Now we're seeing movements, and we got the Canada First movement, or Maple MAGA, whatever you want to call it, but Canadians are starting to get fired up, and you can't take that away. And I don't think patching over to an American flag will help. I think we as Canadians need to stand up for our country, and we need to
do it in a Canadian way.
It's
okay to be different.
That's right. It is okay to be different. And that doesn't mean violence.
No.
We could easily just unite, band together, stay at home for 2 weeks. We'll just, how can you say, flatten the curve.
General strike.
And we'll just general strike it. That'll put this country flat on their ass. The globalists will now interact and hit the government and say, hey, we're losing billions of dollars. You think a train strike is something? The train stop and we're losing billions. What if everybody just stays home and just says, nah, I'm not going until our government is been replaced, or we see an election that's going to be called, and we're going to happen within the next month or two. And truly, that's what needs to happen.
It's
Our
tough though.
government, our current government, is really pushing us in a in a real dark path, in my opinion. And if you've ever looked up the 8 steps to communism, or the 8 pillars, I should say, to communism, every one of those are happening in our country right now.
And I didn't believe it. And then I looked at it and I was like, yeah, there's some similarities there.
Right?
I
Isn't there?
mean, I know it's like a meme on social media. We'll put it up. It's just a list, a brief, short list there. But I mean, you're not totally wrong. I mean, on that list is, controlling healthcare, controlling poverty, increasing and controlling debt, gun control.
Oh, what do you know? Gun control.
Right? Just recently, the liberals, to distract from their dumpster fire of a government and being pee-pee slapped at Mar-Lago, which is a giant resort, by the way, but Trudeau had to go stay at a hotel
Right.
because Trump's
Yeah.
like, no soup for you, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't like your kind here.
So the other 4 pillars were welfare, create a welfare state, education, affect the education, religion, and class warfare, identity politics. And since you brought it up, it does seem that Canada's not full blown, but we are touching different aspects of each of these points on this list.
Absolutely, we are. And it's scary because it's picking up speed, right? Trudeau knows his days could be numbered, and he needs to do as much damage as he can. That's why he's stacking the House of Commons. He's stacking the Supreme Courts. He's stacking as much people in that he can, so that if he gets voted out, which possibly he could still get another 4 years, then he still has, or the Liberals still have power, because they've, basically stacked the deck in their favor. Now, I don't know if Pierre can come along and basically replace all those people immediately and put some fresh bodies in there. I don't know, but he's playing a long game here, and honestly, I believe that's what he's trying to do. Let's just face it. We were infiltrated by China. China is a communist
and
country.
India as well.
India,
apparently,
heavily invaded and penetrated.
Penetrates the cabinets.
Look at the Indian violence that's picking up here now. Is it just because we're starting to report it and it's been like that for a long time, or is it just that?
I'm originally from Brampton.
Okay.
Brampton, Ontario.
Right.
And I'll tell you, it's escalated.
It's escalated.
I mean, from when I was a boy, Brampton now is very different. And, things change, demographics change, that's fine. But lately, I mean, the Liberals opened up the floodgates to a whole bunch of people that a lot of them don't seem to like Canada. And, like we said in our last episode, the increasing violence and the protests and things around Canada, we're seeing increased crime, violence, shootings, homicides. We're seeing, I was just looking up the hate crime stats. Since 2015 until 2023, police reported hate crimes have tripled. Okay, our population didn't triple, but hate crimes tripled, right? And they've brought in a lot of refugee claims, asylum claims, foreign students and visas, work visas, and then straight up immigration. You add all that up, and that's a whole lot of people for the amount of houses we're building. So some of those people, like you've stated in other videos, if 5% of these people hate Canada, if 5% of these people hate Canada and have ulterior motives, that's, a large standing army. And we're seeing a lot of these in these paid protesters and instigators. And another stat I saw is because I see, as Trump had mentioned the Canadian border and sent us all into a tizzy, that a lot of the liberals were like, well, there's no problem, or Americans smuggle guns north, so why bother type of attitude, right? And it's like you hate Trump so much that you would ignore the dangers that put all Canadians in danger, all of our families, regardless of who you vote for. You hate a guy so badly who actually wants to improve Canada by mentioning our border. You hate him so badly, you're willing to look past all the bad things in order to win some argument on the internet or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Trudeau's got, or the liberal government in general, have somebody to blame things on again. Now everything that happens in Canada will be Trump's fault, because his last term, everything, it was ridiculous. Some of the claims that our prime minister would blame on Trump, like he just took it from Harper and then just now started placing the blame blindly on Trump,
and years of insults too.
and years of insults. So
like they've weaponized his name.
How is our country's I guess I'm stumbling for a word here, Ken. We'll have to edit this out, but
that's okay, Rusty. Just give her shit by.
Give her shit by. But our relationship, how does this make our relationship when our two leaders are so opposed? And it's not going to be good for us, Kent, if this continues, because I think Trump coming into 2025, he's got a chip. I wouldn't say a chip on his shoulder. I would say more like he's kind of. I think he's kind of pissed.
Oh, he's going to kick tires and start some fires.
I think he's going to.
Folks, this is just our opinions. We're just a couple buddies sitting around. We're
having a beer.
Having a beer,
shooting
and just our opinions here.
That's right.
But the reason we're talking about all this is because included with the recent Trump shakeup and our recent firearms ban, where they added 300 and something more models of firearms to the already existing 1,500 or so and variants that they previously banned, not including the other handgun ban. So it's like everything's tightening down on us, right? And when we do mention the 8 pillars of what kind of leads to communism, it's true. With the healthcare,
it's a mess.
We doubled our federal debt, and it's like our healthcare is worse than it was before the pandemic. We have people who are getting that their cancer is progressing, or people are dying waiting to see doctors, see specialists, get MRIs. Sometimes the wait list could be a year or more. And if you have stage 3 cancer, next thing you know, you have stage 4 cancer. And they're like, how about the MAID program?
Well, that's right. And makes you wonder why they brought the MAID program out when they did. And looking at where we are now, you can almost say, is this the reason why? Because they could foretell that our healthcare system was going to be so out of control that it was easier for you to just pick that program than to wait for actual help. And then, they also save in healthcare spending, I guess. So win-win. But where does that leave us? Now we're left helpless in an industry that's just crashing. How many doctors have we lost in the last 2 years? That adds up to it. How many nurses? How many people walked off the job? How many retired?
How many specialists?
Right? So
neurologists.
So absolutely. So you just can't replace these people, Kent. And it takes time. It takes money, and that's something that we're seeing in every industry in our country. Is this mass exodus just by people?
The brain drain.
The
talent leaving.
That's right. And it's scary because we don't have anybody to replace that. That being said, we've doubled our national deficit, and the country is getting nothing. So we're basically borrowing money to give it away. I don't know what kind of financial madness people think that is okay. Like, can you go to the bank, Kent, and can you go and borrow 100 grand so you can donate it or you can go give it to somebody?
I don't think
Like,
that would
what
work
man
out.
does that doesn't even make sense? But
No.
that's what we're doing, and we're just basically driving our country into debt so
And
far.
yeah, and it's like an indebted society, though. The companies are indebted
Right.
to the government. The media is indebted to the government. The people are indebted to the companies and the banks and credit cards.
Yeah,
And
we're
all of
debt
a
slaves.
sudden,
Debt slaves.
the next pillar is gun control, which we just touched on. The liberals just because they want to distract from their PP getting slapped about the border, the SDT scandal, and them not cooperating with the RCMP and Parliament being stalled because they won't hand over documents that are not redacted, and all the other corruption and bullshit. So they ban guns, right? Now, these people know, like, the amnesty day is pushed all the way back to October 2025 is when the election is. So these people know that they've done this, and they're not going to be in government to confiscate firearms or to enact any of this legislation. This is just to piss people off and to distract people from the dumpster fire.
So
Gun control, pillar
Right.
number 4.
I got one question to ask on the gun control.
Yes.
Is that this is going to be a federal program? So does now the provincial government have to adhere?
I think it's
Can we,
technically firearms in Canada is a federal program, but for example, Alberta and Danielle Smith has said that we pay for the RCMP in Alberta. The RCMP, they probably still answer to Ottawa. They answer their phone calls and they probably are told what to do at the end of the day. But Danielle Smith did say that we pay the RCMP and we're not going to pay them to confiscate firearms.
Right.
So they are on contract with us. So it's up to each individual, I guess, province.
So, I can see what can happen here.
Yeah.
And this is just my prediction, but I can see him bringing in UN troops to do this, foreign help.
I don't think it's going to happen because we're going to have an election.
But what happens if he wins that
He's
election?
not going to win. Unless there is
well, you know what?
He's not going to win.
We should throw down some wagers because
I'm Canadian. I got no money.
What? But yeah, true. But man, he has still a shot. I'm sorry.
Of course he has a shot.
And hopefully he doesn't win, but he could very well win that election, especially with some shenanigans and some mail-in voting
and some more help from China.
Right.
The government.
Or India. Right. So, yeah, it's not good. And, what's the next pillar? Well, a welfare state. You will own nothing and you will be happy.
Where have we heard that before?
Where have we heard that
I think
before?
we're still building back better. That's working out good.
Yeah, well, working great, isn't it? But look at the world we live in. Everybody is becoming more and more dependent on the government, and that's what they want. They want you to be dependent on the government so that they control you. They can control every aspect of your life.
And that comes down to the various bills in Canada, Bill C-63 and online censorship and all these things that they're trying to push. They want to control your food, your vehicle, your farts and your CO2 emissions, everything you buy, purchase, see, hear, your opinions online. They want to, your protests, if you don't protest for government approved things like pro-Hamas, that can go for a year. But if you want to be against the Canadian government, you got to shut that shit down with police beatings, right? So the next step, the sixth step of communism is education. So that's indoctrinating the generations coming up, teaching people what you want to teach them, your version of history, to make them think a certain way.
Correct.
And what are we seeing?
We're seeing that already. And we're seeing people out there that aren't, They're not very educated. And our education system, my daughter just came out of the education system here in Alberta, and they just pump you through. And they really, the stuff that they're teaching is, as far as I'm concerned, is is useless. Like these kids, are not retaining it because they're too distracted with other things, and they're we're just pumping them through the system, and that's what they want because they don't want people to know history. Communists erase history. That's what they're known for. Why? Well, so you don't know how good it could be, right? In another system or in another time, right? Or where we've been and why we're here. And like you brought when we started the show, our grandfathers and forefathers are rolling in their grave seeing the road that we're going to because they laid their life on the line fighting this. Does anybody ask that nobody's talking about communism? And I keep bringing up Oppenheimer, the movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it because throughout that whole movie, the main concern was the communists, the communists. Well, whatever happened to that threat? Where did it go? It didn't go anywhere. It's here and it's live and it has taken over.
Well,
You know
they're
what I
in our
mean?
government.
They're totally in our
You know,
government.
they're in our media, our major institutions, our biolabs, our higher learning centers, universities, colleges. I mean, we're infiltrated. We have our enemies here on Canadian soil. You know, we're moving closer and closer to what looks like communism. We still have more freedoms here. We're not saying we're China or some horrible place, but we're a step closer to being England. We're a step closer to the police knocking on your door over an opinion online.
That's right.
You know, we're starting to see culture clashes and battles in the streets and people blocking streets praying, you know, and different things that are going on where different groups, you know, and what I like, we always try to find solutions on this show. And one that really rings true for me is we all say, or the government says and has pushed it on us, that diversity is our strength. But that's also one of the pillars of communism. One of the pillars is class warfare or identity politics, where we are all battling each other based, and we're all separated into our little boxes based upon all of our differences. Your gender, your job, your race, your region, vax status. They divide you up into everything so that everybody is distracted and battling each other.
That's right.
You know, and that is another form of this where identity politics is pushed onto people. And the scary thing is it's very effective.
Yeah, it's very effective, Ken. And we're seeing it every day. Like you go on Twitter right now or X, and I don't know if I'll ever call it.
I know it's hard.
First, it's tough.
Twitter.
But you go on there and the algorithm is all about division and keeping, and that's what sells. It keeps people coming back. And a lot of it is, you know, people are bickering, and that bickering
is planned.
Is planned.
That's like, that identity politics.
Look at right now with the whole this movement, this Canada First movement that certain people are trying to push. And you know, people are bickering about slogans, about who they are and who they're about. And you know what? It isn't about that. It's about Canada, people. You know, it's not what your country can do for you. It's what we can do for our country. And those words are very, very deep and meaningful words because it's what we can do for our country. And we need to unite as Canadians and stand up against this communist revolution. Bolshevism. Is that what's happening here? Is it another Bolshevik revolution? Let's just face it. This stuff has happened in the past and it isn't dead. It's alive and thriving. Look at China. They haven't ever pulled out. And how many people perished?
They don't pull out of the Liberals either. Right?
No, they don't because they're deep. And you don't see them pulling out like, well, look at the nobody talks about the Homidor, that happened in Ukraine.
People mention it, but it's
Right.
not talked about
It's
like
not
a
talked
lot of
about
other.
like it isn't compared to the Holocaust,
Mhm.
and that was a genocide.
We just try to present information. We're obviously biased. We don't hide it. You know, we hate the government for obvious good reasons as we creep closer and closer to communism, and we have Chinese infiltration, and we have all this terrible things going on that's hidden from us as they ban our firearms and crime and everything around us spikes. And
Well,
it's out of control.
it's totally out of control. And just one more point on religion. How many churches have burnt down in the last couple of years in here in Canada? And
I think in 12 years it was 500 to 600.
there you go.
In the last couple of years, it's been like 100.
So how many mosques have burnt down? How many?
None on purpose that I'm aware of,
Right.
but there might be one or
So
two. I don't know for sure.
is there a persecution?
There's no comparison.
There's no comparison. And nobody's really saying much about it. Not, and we did a bit of a talk about that in a lot of previous shows, but it's pretty sad how we never hear the follow up. Did they catch the arsonist? Is it one guy? Is it a group? Is
You
it?
have to search for it.
You have to search for
Hard,
it.
actually.
Very hard, and most times you don't get any info. So it's just pretty sad, and that's just there is no. They do not. Well, look at in China, for instance. All the mosques now have been torn down and or basically which they turned down, they taken down like everything to make them look like a mosque, and then basically just took those buildings and repurposed them, right, and made it illegal to be Islamic in China, and they think it's a mental illness. And why isn't the rest of the world saying anything? Sounds pretty racist to me, but yet nobody quite questions them on their racism. It's a crazy world we live in, man. It's the fucking Twilight Zone.
There's a good reason why China is not criticized very much in Canada, and we know why.
Well, we know why. Because they're
government and media.
Yeah, that's
so.
Right.
The reason we tied this all in together is, Trump trolling Canada, a magnifying glass put on our border, in relation to firearms bans and the censorship we've talked about and forced vaccination and all the crazy things that have happened in Canada that we never thought would before, and how it does relate to, or we can at least give examples of, how it relates to leading to the pillars of communism. And I'm sorry, but it's true.
It's true.
It's unfortunate, and we need to talk about it.
That's right.
And I don't think all the politicians are going to have all the answers, and everyone's going to say and do everything we always need them to. But we need a change in government, and we need to try.
Well, I think the conservatives are. How can you say? They can see it. I like that. How they, sellout Singh there was flapping his lips about the bootlickers, and Pierre's reply was classic. Called him, the Maserati Marxist, because he is. Here's a guy who's trying to say he's working for the people. He's all about the working class, and he's living the high life on our dime. And he's running around in a Maserati. Like, come on.
Dude's been flipped more times than a table, bro.
Have a look what's happening in China. What's happening in North Korea. What's happening in Cuba. That's just some examples of what this ideology is about. So is that what we want to be? Is that what Canada truly is? That's something we need to really discuss.
I think we're better than that. And we got to start focusing on our similarities.
That's right.
More than our differences.
Exactly.
Diversity isn't our strength. It's an important part of Canada, but it's our similarities, I believe, that are going to bring us together.
Yeah. United we stand, Kent. Divided we fall.
This is Canada. Maple syrup in my cabin, say